forward to this.
What is up guys, so today for this video we're looking at Count Dooku himself, Darth Tyrannus, if anyone has watched the Clone Wars. So today for this video and this hero guide we're going to be looking at some of his strengths, some of his weaknesses, and also how his abilities actually work in cooperation with other heroes and other villains so that you can actually maximize your abilities and your duelist capabilities to the full potential. One thing before I start this video as well, I just want to say that I think Count Dooku is a character who is heavily underrated in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You don't really see much Count Dooku players out there because most people tend to go for like other heroes like such as maybe Anakin or Luke or maybe Vader. However, in some scenarios, when you do actually see a Count Dooku, most of the time they're going to be an experienced player, just because Dooku is that type of character where, you know, he's a little bit hard to master, but when you actually do master him, he can really own on the battlefront. So without further ado, we're going to try to get into this video. I'm going to like showcase some gameplay for you guys, and I'm going to be going over some of the star cards that I use for him and why I think these star cards fit my playstyle better, and also how they can actually incorporate with your playstyle as well, depending on if you'd want to go with the same route as mine. So without further ado, we're going to go into this video guys, and let's go into the next clip. So jumping straight in, we're going to take a look at Count Dooku's star cards. So on screen right now you guys are seeing the 3 star cards that I use, and I'm going to do my best to try to explain why I use these 3 star cards compared to the other one, as in my opinion Count Dooku's damage can't be rivaled. He has the highest damage output for any saber wheel in this game, and I find that these 3 star cards help me to maximize his potential in Battlefront 2. Count Dooku is a very skilled duelist, and with the right abilities and star cards I believe, he can fully master any opponent on the Battlefront. So without further ado, we're going to get into the next one.
Your move. I've been looking forward to this. Fighting for the wrong side.
So the first star card that I use is called Finesse, and the reason why I use a star card is because it has a 35% decreased stamina drain for Dooku. So this allows Dooku to be able to block attacks and also attack much more efficiently with the increase of his stamina, as he is going to be able to actually lose stamina at a much slower rate than normal if I wasn't using the star card. So with my playstyle especially, I like to play Dooku aggressively, and I think that's one way you can play Dooku. I don't think Dooku is a very defensive character. I think he's a very aggressive character, especially having such a high damage output. So one thing I always try to make sure whenever I'm playing as Dooku is like I'm always trying to like make sure I've got at least maybe 50% stamina depending on who I'm going up against. Most scenarios, if I'm going up against maybe 2 players or 3 players, as you guys are seeing me do right now as I take on the entire team, I'm always trying to like zip away, keep my lightsaber down so that I can actually get some stamina, so that when I'm actually ready to actually attack again, I should have a good increase in my stamina, and I should have a good amount of stamina so I can actually go in, do some attacks, zip back out, and actually try to keep my stamina up to make sure that I can actually continue fending off my opponents, which is really good. So I'd highly recommend like using the star card, especially for you guys out there who are looking to master Dooku. Like stamina in this game is so important. So the second star card that I use is called Initiative. And the reason why I use this star card is highly because I think this is the staple star card for Dooku. When I talk about Dooku being a character that can do extreme damage, high DPS, he can literally almost maybe 3-shot, 4-shot a hero, especially if he's attacking from behind. This star card is literally the star card that boosts Dooku's damage, as it actually allows Dooku to deal critical strikes with his lightsaber attacks. And I believe Dooku is the only character in this game, saber wielder wise, who can deal critical strikes with his lightsaber. And in terms of damage, like I mentioned for the star card, every 15 seconds that Dooku attacks with his lightsaber, it is going to deal a critical strike. And the benefits of this star card is, which is really good, it's going to decrease that 15 seconds by 1 second for every successful attack that you hit with Dooku's lightsaber. That's why I think it's really good to stay alive with Dooku as long as possible, because as an example, so let's just say you start off with Dooku, you've just spawned in heroes versus villains or Galactic Assault or Supremacy. So 15 seconds goes by and you land a strike with Dooku's lightsaber on an enemy. That is going to reduce the cooldown by 1. Whenever you do successfully hit someone, as the 15 seconds goes past, you will land a critical strike. So let's just take an example. You're going up against an opponent and 15 seconds has gone past, and within those 15 seconds you've managed to land 1 attack on your opponent. Now you've landed a critical strike on him, which is obviously really good, and also the benefits of this as well is that you have now reduced the cooldown of 15 seconds to 14 seconds. Let's just say you land another attack on your opponent. Because you've already reduced your cooldown from 15, it is now going to be 14, and then it's going to go down to 13 and continuing. So it's always going to decrease the longer you are alive with Dooku. So it's going to be up for the duration of you staying alive with Dooku. That's why when playing Dooku, you will actually be able to see that a lot of people can actually hold their own in maybe 1v1s, maybe 2v1s, maybe 3v1s, because Dooku's damage cannot be rivaled. Like, he literally just does so much damage in such a short amount of time, because the person who is playing as Dooku most likely has reduced his cooldown so that Dooku is able to land critical strikes more often. So for this, I highly recommend anyone playing Dooku, try to stay alive as long as possible. You want to maximize Dooku's potential, especially with this star card. Next star card on the list is called Masterful Duelist, and the reason why I use the star card is because it actually enhances Dooku's middle ability, Duelist, which is the name of it. It's really good, as when Dooku actually uses this ability, he will raise his lightsaber up and he will actually do increased damage with his normal lightsaber attacks. Keep in mind, if you're already running the second star card that I talked about, Dooku is going to be able to deal more critical strikes as the duration of him landing actual saber attacks are going to be reduced. So while Duelist is actually activated, you want to make sure that you are attacking as much as possible. I'd highly recommend, and this is just a little tip as well, I highly recommend actually when you have Duelist up and running, you want to make sure that you're actually going in and actually trying to land attacks on your opponent so that you can actually maximize the full potential of this ability and also of the star card as well. While doing so, this star card has a really good bonus as well, and it actually allows Dooku's middle ability to do an increase of 20 damage. So on top of Dooku already dealing high damage already, he gets a bonus 20 damage to his normal lightsaber attacks, which actually helps to defeat your opponents very quickly. There are a lot of situations where, in most cases, especially in the gameplay that you guys would see, I will maybe dash to the left or dash to the right of my opponent and try to get those hits in, because I want to make sure that whenever I use Duelist, I want to make sure that I actually get as much hits in as possible so that I can actually maximize the ability and also the star cards as well. Just a little tip for you guys as well, when you are using Duelist ability, as good as it is, because it does the animation where Dooku raises his lightsaber up and then puts it back down so that he can actually start beginning to attack and stuff, you are open to being attacked. There's like a little gap, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, where your enemy can either use a force ability to knock you over, or they can actually land a lightsaber attack on you as well, or a blaster character can land a couple shots in for this animation. So in most cases, what I'd highly recommend as well to actually help you guys so that we want to maximize this ability is create some distance between you and your opponent. In a lot of the gameplay that you guys are seeing from me especially, you're going to see before I actually use Duelist, I actually create some space between myself and my opponent, because I know, as an example, and let's just to use Yoda as I'm going up against him right now. Let's just say I was going to use my Duelist ability. If Yoda had his force push ability up ready, while I'm in the animation of doing Duelist, Yoda can use his force push ability, do damage to me and also knock me out, and then actually follow up with a couple lightsaber swings while I'm on the floor and trying to get back up. So I highly recommend creating some distance between you and your opponent so that you can actually use his ability, because as you use Duelist, you want to make sure, like I mentioned, you want to make sure that you're always attacking your enemy, always trying to get as much hits in as much as possible while the ability is actually up for the duration of it. That is really, really good, and I highly recommend trying to do so as well. So right now what you guys are seeing is just some gameplay in Galactic Assault, and I'm just showcasing how I play Dooku in this specific game mode, as it's always good I find to actually show gameplay of heroes versus villains and also Galactic Assault, as I do understand there are some people who prefer heroes versus villains and there are some people who prefer playing Galactic Assault or Supremacy. Everyone has their pick and choose when it comes to the specific game modes, and obviously if you're playing heroes versus villains, it's going to be 4 versus 4. If you're playing Galactic Assault, an example, it's going to be 20v20. So sometimes you need to be more aware of how many enemies there are on the map, and also what type of scenarios you're going to be coming up against, so that you can actually whether escape really quickly to save your hero, or maybe go in, do some damage to an opponent so that you're actually able to kill them really fast and then back out. So now that we've gone over Dooku's star cards and the ones I use and why I think they're more suited for Dooku, and especially for my playstyle, let's talk about his abilities. So the first ability that I'm going to be speaking about is his lightning ability. So one tip for you guys just to know about this ability as well is that it actually does more damage when it actually hits fewer targets, which is really weird, but I guess that's just for balance reason as to why the ability is like that. So Dooku unleashes some lightning and it will knock enemies over when it successfully hits them, and it will also kill them in most scenarios. So let's just say you go up against maybe one person, it's going to have a higher damage increase compared to, let's say, if you use it on maybe 2 or 3 enemies. The damage is going to be reduced the more enemies are affected by this ability. So a good thing about this ability as well, so Dooku's lightning reach is really good, as he actually knocks enemies over when he successfully hits them. So in most scenarios when I'm going up against like a group of people, maybe 2 or 3 people, and I'm actually outnumbered, I'm going to actually think about it really carefully and I'm going to use this ability. Let's just say that you're going up against a saber wielder and they have their lightsaber up and they're defending and they're blocking and everything, and you use this ability, it isn't going to hit them, so it's going to be unsuccessful, and then your opponent can just follow up with a few attacks on you afterwards. So whenever using this ability, I'd highly recommend looking for the best scenario to actually use it in, because you don't want to use the ability and it actually doesn't work. In most cases it's actually really good because you can knock someone over and then you can just follow up with maybe 1 or 2 swings depending on how much HP they have, and then this is going to help you to defeat your enemies really fast as well. And going over Dooku's middle ability, which is called Duelists, which I briefly did in the previous clips. This ability, it allows Dooku to change to a more offensive style of attacking, and he also does more powerful hits whenever he actually successfully hits someone. This ability, like I mentioned, there is the bypass of the animation, and if you get past the bypass of the animation, you can actually go in and do ridiculous damage to your opponents and actually help you in either defeating them really quickly or chipping at their HP little by little, which is really good as well. So in most scenarios, whenever I'm actually going up against, like, let's just say another saber wielder as an example, or maybe I'm just playing Galactic Assault as I'm doing right now, I tend to use Duelists more when I know I'm going to head into battle, as if I'm going up against another character as an example, I want to make sure that I can do as much damage to my opponent as quickly as possible, especially when you're playing a game mode like Galactic Assault. You don't really have the time to be continuously swinging your lightsaber trying to attack your opponent, because while you're doing so and the opponent is probably rolling because they're trying to evade you, you're going to leave yourself open for his teammates to actually shoot you with their blasters, or maybe for another lightsaber character to maybe pull you or push you, or come up from behind you and actually do damage to you as well. So when using this ability, I highly recommend use it in the right scenario, that you think that if there's a group of enemies, you want to make sure you get in there really quickly, do as much damage to all of them as you possibly can, and then get out as fast as you can as well. And the last ability that Count Dooku has is called Expose Weakness, and the benefits of this ability is that it actually decreases your enemy's movement speed, it removes any extra health on the opponent, and also it actually allows them so that they can actually receive more damage from yourself and also from your allies as well. So just an example, let's just say you're playing heroes versus villains and you're playing as Count Dooku and you're going up against another character. You use Expose Weakness, this person isn't going to be able to run because their movement speed is going to be slowed down, if they had any extra health, as an example, let's just say Yoda used his presence ability, giving his teammates extra health, it will remove that extra health from that opponent as well, which is really, really good. So let's just say Yoda buffs his team and you're going up against one specific character in this moment that has been buffed. You use exposed weakness, and that extra health that teammate has gotten from Yoda, it will be removed. And along with that, it also allows them to take more damage from either yourself or your teammates as well, which is really, really good. Like, it's kind of like a supportive ability, which is really good because, you know, Dooku, he doesn't really have much supportive abilities. I'd highly say this is his only supportive ability in the game. You know, sometimes you may not even want to get the kill, but maybe someone's running away from you and you just want to slow them down. You can use this ability so that they can't run, and then your teammates can do increased damage to your opponent, which is pretty cool. And the good thing about this ability as well is if you actually use this and you are the one that actually gets the kill for the person that you put exposed weakness on, the ability is automatically going to reset, and therefore you can use that ability again. And if, let's just say as an example, you're going up against 4 people, you use it on one of them, you kill them, it's going to be spread around to the other person, and let's just say that you kill that person, the ability is going to reset itself. So it's really, really good. Sometimes I find this ability like situationally useful, as in most cases someone is probably they could just jump to evade you, but at the same time it's really good and really helpful as well. So just a few tips for you guys while I'm just playing Heroes versus Villains right now, so you guys can kind of see the gameplay as to why I'm saying specific things as well. Whenever I see a lot of people play as Dooku, like they always rush in with their lightning ability first, and this is kind of like very similar to how fewer people play Maul, because for some people who are new to the game and they actually play Maul, an example, they all lead in with Maul's Force Stroke ability. Now let's just say you're playing as Darth Maul and you use his Force Stroke ability. What is going to happen is that it is going to throw you across the map, resulting in that opponent being a distance away from you, which means you're going to have to then rush in to then attack them. Let's just say now you're playing as Dooku and you use his lightning reach ability. The opponent is going to fall to the floor. It doesn't have a great range of throw motion compared to Darth Maul's chokehold ability, which is really good, but at the same time a lot of people expect a Dooku player to just rush in and just use his lightning reach ability. I'd highly recommend when you're going into a fight, do not use this ability, because in most scenarios, especially if you're going up against another saber character, they are going to be holding their lightsaber up, blocking you. If you're going against a blaster character, it's a little bit more situationally useful, because in most cases, especially if they're not rolling, then you can just use this ability, knock them over, and then you'll be able to follow up with a few lightsaber hits, and most likely you'll get the kill really, really quickly. But when going up against other saber characters as well, I'd highly recommend, guys, like, don't be one of those players that just rushes in and uses the lightning reach ability, because in most scenarios your opponent is going to be blocking, because a lot of people in Star Wars Battlefront 2, they love to block. So that's just a little tip for you guys, that you guys are kind of aware of how to start off a battle. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this Count Dooku Hero Guide video. This is probably one of my most in-depth videos on the series so far that I'm doing on my channel, as I actually found Count Dooku to be a character who, like I mentioned earlier in the start of this video, is very underrated. And not a lot of people actually play Dooku because he doesn't really have force abilities in regards to like push in and pull in and chokeholds and everything like that. So not a lot of people actually play Dooku, but I guarantee you guys, when you actually master Dooku, and hopefully watching this video has actually helped you guys to actually master him, when you master Dooku, you'll be surprised at how much damage he can deliver in such a short amount of time, which is so good. So I really hope that this video has actually really helped you guys, because I really do want to see more Count Dooku players in Heroes vs Villains, and also Galactic Assault as well. As like I mentioned, not a lot of people actually play Dooku, and there are some Dooku mains out there who absolutely dominate in Heroes vs Villain rounds, and it's really good to see Dooku gain some love, at least, because I wouldn't really say he's one of the highest ranked characters that people actually go to whenever they play Battlefront 2. But at the same time, like I mentioned, if you do know how to play him properly, you'll realize that Dooku can hold its own in like 4v1s, 3v1s and stuff like that. So if you guys have enjoyed the video, do leave a like on it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.
I've become more powerful than any Jedi.